Good morning, Mike Naso from the Tropical Update page on YouTube with the latest on Hurricane Irma, which is a strong hurricane spinning across the Atlantic Ocean. There you can see it on the satellite imagery, looking like it's fluctuating in intensity. It had been a Category 2, then a Category 3, then a Category 2, then a Category 3. Now it's a Category 2 again, but it looks as though it's going to strengthen once again. It's a small hurricane, but again, powerful, and it is anticipated to become an even stronger hurricane over the next several days as it moves towards the west-southwest and then eventually back up towards the west-northwest. Behind Irma, another powerful tropical wave, and this also has a potential to become a tropical system, probably moving further south than Irma. Now here's the latest on Hurricane Irma as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 19.0 north, 41.8 west. So it is still a very long way from any land areas, even the U.S. Virgin Islands. It wouldn't be until midweek that we begin to see Irma. Maximum sustained winds 110 miles per hour, had been as high as 120, gusting much higher than that. It's moving west at about 13 or 14 miles per hour, really riding 19.0 north. And the anticipation here is a west-southwest movement, and that should continue into next week, and then eventually back to the west, and then the west-northwest after that. And by Thursday, it is forecast by the Hurricane Center to be a very powerful Category 4 hurricane just to the north of the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. But again, the cone of uncertainty does include the islands and Puerto Rico. It could be down south here, it could be further to the north, but nevertheless, if you are in these areas, begin to overlook your hurricane plans, as well as if you live in areas further to the west. 970 millibars is the pressure. Now, the computer models are in a little bit better agreement, at least through the next 3 days, at this westward movement, then west-southwest, then back west, then west-northwest again. However, once we get out beyond 4 or 5 days, there's always a lot of uncertainty. Some of the computer models show that Irma could turn. The high-pressure ridge could back off. We could have a trough move down and interact with Irma and turn it out to sea, maybe even avoiding Bermuda. However, there's another scenario where it could continue towards the west-northwest and the northwest into the east coast, or later on, even miss the trough and head back west more before turning west-northwest again. But this is so far out, so anything beyond, say, 65 west right here, you don't want to focus on yet. That's all still a big question mark. Right now we have a pretty good indication of where Irma will go for the next 3 to 5 days. There you can see the water vapor imagery, and this gives a really good indicator of the pattern here. You can see the upper level winds beginning to fan out on both sides in this direction as Irma's going to get pressured by the high pressure to the north of it, which is moving in a clockwise flow towards a west-southwesterly direction over the next couple of days. And that's going to bring it closer to the islands rather than farther away. However, if it does begin to back off back towards the west-northwest, it could still avoid the islands. So this is why it's such an important hurricane to keep an eye on, because it's going to be very powerful and strengthening. But again, we're talking several days. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days before we'd even be talking about the northern islands, and then 6 and 7 days beyond that. So there's a lot of time to overlook your hurricane plans and what you would do should Irma take aim at you. And even though this is a small hurricane, you can see it's very compact here, it is intense. So even if you don't directly get impacted by the hurricane, there's still the potential that that eye would go over you, which could have drastic consequences, as we saw last week in Texas. So the forecast here is getting very sketchy as time goes on, and the computer models are not of any real help right now. Now, this is the GFS model, and you can see it takes Irma west-northwest north of the islands and then does begin to turn it. You can see it catches the weakness here in the ridging and begins to turn. This is by 5, 6, 7 days out by 180 hours. That's the global forecasting model. Then we have the European model, the 0Z, which is much scarier. It shows Irma missing the weakness in the trough and going into the Bahamas as what is clearly a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, which would be very bad news not only for the Bahama, but for the southeastern United States. That's the European model, which has performed kind of good with this hurricane so far. And then the Canadian model also shows Irma just taking that steady stair-step track north of the islands, north of Puerto Rico, squarely into the Bahamas, towards the southeastern U.S., and that would be by 180 hours as well. So, we either have a track further north or a track further south and west. Regardless, Irma is going to be a powerful hurricane, it looks like, very strong, and it's going to be one that could impact land, but we're not sure of the impact yet. So there's time to watch it and begin to get your hurricane supplies ready just in case Irma heads your way. You can see the upper level winds over the top of this very tiny hurricane look pretty favorable, little anticyclone sitting over it, and the system to its southeast here is much further to the south, kind of coming under the radar, but we have to watch this as it moves towards the islands. Within a week we could be dealing with another storm. So hurricane season 2017 continues to be active in the Atlantic. We already had a Category 4 U.S. landfall. We don't want to see Irma impact land because this is going to be a powerful hurricane for at least a week, at least. Before I let you go, I did want to mention Lydia, a tropical storm still over the Baja there in Mexico. A lot of heavy flooding rains. You can see it doesn't look very organized, but that moisture will be spreading north over the next couple of days, including possibly to areas of the southwestern United States. So Lydia causing a lot of problems there. So the Pacific's active, the Atlantic's very active, and we will continue to watch Hurricane Irma. It's a small but strengthening hurricane, forecast to take a west-southwest track and then back towards the west and west-northwest. It could impact the islands and land masses further west, but it is still too soon to say. All we can do is watch it right now. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll see you guys next time.